Welcome to PKs Anonymous, the community of pastors' kids that is all purpose and no performance. We have another wonderful episode planned for you. And as always, we want to give you an opportunity to get to know just a little bit who it is that we're talking to today. So every time we do this, we give our guests an opportunity to let us know how they want to be known. So this is an opportunity for our guests, our audience to connect. And I don't know what you want to go by today. It can be anything. It can be a random name. It could be your favorite superhero or the character in your favorite book growing up. I don't know. All right. So who are we talking to today?
You're talking to Catwoman.
Catwoman. I love it. Let's go. That's the first. I've been waiting for a Catwoman. All right. All right. So Catwoman, what region are you from? Like, in what region did you grow up as a PK?
In LA.
In Los
In Los
Angeles.
Angeles.
Okay.
Yes.
Who pastored? Your mother, father, or both?
My father.
Your father.
Yeah.
And how old were you when you became a PK?
I was preteen.
Preteen.
So 12.
Or
Around
12
there.
years old.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, so you all now know a little bit about Catwoman, so let's dive into it. And I think I want to dive into it right here with our first segment that we usually do, which is one word. Okay, so
Okay.
we'll talk about it, and then we'll dive in and see where our conversation takes us. So this is an opportunity where you get to describe and capture your experience as a PK in one word. Okay. So if you had to capture your PK experience in one word, what one word would it be?
Oh, this is a hard one. But I think it's responsible. Like that
Mm,
just really like the high responsibility came out in a really big way. So
mm.
responsible.
Now, when you say responsible, are you talking about like you felt responsible?
Yeah.
Or, okay, so
So
talk to me about that.
yeah, I
What?
think it was a little bit of both.
Mm,
So like the amount of responsibilities grew,
hmm.
but then also some of that was on my shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the fact that you became a PK at the age of 12, you said the responsibilities grew. So take us on a journey. Take our guests on a journey. You started off as a normal child growing up in LA, Los Angeles, and then what happens? How does you said your father?
Yeah.
How does your father communicate this newfound calling of his? Like what's happening in
Yeah.
your world, in Catwoman's home? What's
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah. Yeah, so it felt like a pretty drastic change.
Mm,
So it felt like we had a very like normal family life. We did a lot of we have a large family, so we did a lot of camping and
mm-hmm,
outings with our family. And then um, my dad, based on like he had been doing ministry with like it was like men's ministry, boys ministry. He was very involved,
mm-hmm,
and he felt like he was called to do more.
mm-hmm,
And so I very vividly remember there was this family conversation
mm,
where he said what God was putting in his heart,
mm,
and then he asked if we were all on board.
mm,
And so I think it was his way of keeping us like it was his way of informing us, but also like wanting our voice to be heard.
mm,
But what it felt like to me was like, as a highly responsible child, I
mm-hmm,
was like, oh wow, like I'm taking on this responsibility as
mm,
well.
yeah,
So I'm saying yes to something, and later it felt like I said yes to something that I didn't even understand.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So as a child, it was like, hey, this is what God is calling me to. As a family, can we commit to this? And we
Mm-hmm.
were all like, yes, this is
Yeah, let's
great.
do it.
Let's do it. And, you're following God's calling.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like, wow, what did we get ourselves into?
What have we
God,
done?
yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned having a large family. How many siblings do you have?
I only have two younger brothers.
Okay.
Large family in the sense of both my parents have at least 8
Got
brothers and
you.
sisters, lots of cousins.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got you. So you have two brothers, you said?
Yes.
Two brothers, older, younger,
Younger.
both of you. So you're the oldest.
I'm the
So
oldest.
that adds
Yeah.
something to it there.
Yeah.
All right. So you're the oldest. You're 11 or 12.
Hmm.
Your dad walks in, and you said it felt abrupt, but you also mentioned that he was already in ministry, like he was doing a lot of things. So were you all active in that part of his life at that point, or not? Not very.
Um, so my brothers were.
Okay.
So I guess maybe because I was a girl
Mm-hmm.
and like he took my brothers with him to a lot of the trainings he did,
Mm-hmm.
because he worked for like men's and boys ministry.
Mm-hmm.
They came along for the ride often. It was abrupt for me because my mom was a stay-at-home mom
Mm-hmm.
and I did a lot of the things with my mom.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they were more used to doing all the church things with him. I was not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And when he had this conversation with you, did you take that as an invitation to be part of that more, or like, because you mentioned responsible, right? So you're
Mhm.
already a responsible child. You
Mhm.
are the oldest. You are the
Right.
eldest, and you are the eldest sister.
Right.
So there's that dynamic that's happening already. But then when your father's having this conversation with you and the whole family,
Right.
he's inviting you all into it. Did you take that on as an invitation to be more of a part of his world that you hadn't necessarily yet been? Or did you see this more of like a personal thing that's saying, hey, now I've got something different to do?
At the moment, I took it as this was an invitation for him, and he
Mm-hmm.
wanted to make sure his family was on board.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the way that it evolved was that now I had responsibilities
Yeah.
and like certain maybe um, like things that I had to live up to or
Mm.
expectations, from other people.
Okay, so let's talk about that. All
Yeah.
right. Um, did you feel that immediately, or did you feel that over time?
I felt that over time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was happening? So, did he take over a church? Did he plant a church? How did the transition happen?
Um, he took over a church.
Okay.
So there was the church we attended,
Mm-hmm.
the pastor he was retiring.
Okay.
And so they were in search of a new pastor.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted to look in-house.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, the pastor who was there, did that pastor have children?
He had grown children.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you were a child, the growing up in that church, the pastor's children were already grown.
Yeah.
Okay, got you. Because I was wondering where the expectations might have come from, and I know you said over time, but I was wondering if maybe you'd experienced seeing other pastors' kids before you became one and having expectations of them yourself, or was that not really part of your story?
No, that I didn't grow up seeing other pastors' kids.
Okay.
And so I don't think it was from what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it was more of the way it evolved was, it was like now there's a family who has kids.
Mm-hmm.
Prior there was, husband and wife who were
Yeah.
older. The kids were never in the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So now the congregation has expectations of this is how the children of a pastor should behave.
Right.
Yeah.
And where did you get exposed to that first?
Hmm. Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
You don't remember like a particular thing where you were maybe in a certain setting and someone like maybe said something about an activity that you were doing, or like how did this knowledge or cognitive awareness of the expectations of others become known to you?
Yeah. So I remember my mom is really protective
Mm-hmm.
of, you know, of her children, right? And so I remember there was a time where it was like the secretary or someone in the church um, said that now that we were pastors' kids, the leaders of the church could correct us. And my mom was furious. She was like, "Nope, that's only my right. Like I'm the only one who corrects my children. If you have a problem with anything, you come and tell me." And so I just remember that very vividly, that my mom was wrestling with the audacity that the church leaders felt like they're our kids, and my
Yeah.
mom was like, nope, they're my kids. And so I think that was the very first time that I felt like, oh, something's
Yeah.
shifting. Yeah, and there was like this very like, my mom was very upset. I remember that. Yeah.
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 So like this conversation must have been happening at the church then. Like there was like a board meeting or something or
I think it was like, we spent a lot of time at church. Once my dad was a pastor, so it was like between services, kind of, yeah,
Gotcha.
conversation.
And
Yeah,
mom was hot. She wasn't
yeah,
having it.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Did you ever have a conversation with her about that?
No, no.
Okay.
I just remember that's what happened, and it's like something that stuck with me. And it felt like even in the the messiness of what felt like like our lives were changing, like she had our back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you enjoying the change?
Um, Not really. No. Yeah.
Why not?
Um, so mm, because my dad was he had a full-time job, and this was then a full-time responsibility that he was doing as a volunteer. Um, there was no time for all the recreational things that we used to do. And so, again, and in addition to all the new responsibilities, it also changed what we did on a daily basis. So our lives used to look like, we went to school, our parents went to work, or my dad went to work. We came home, we had family dinners, we did family outings, and it turned from that like super drastically to now all of our free time goes to church.
Yeah.
And we were there pretty much like maybe once a week we were not at church, but we were there almost every day.
Almost every day.
Yeah.
I think it's important too because I'm not ignorant to the fact that more than PKs listen to and watch this podcast, and I think it's interesting that you make that note. And what a lot of people assume is that pastors just pastor. Your father had a full-time job and was pastoring as a volunteer.
Right.
What was the size of the congregation?
Um, Around 150, 200.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in some standards and contexts, this is a large church too. So very, very interesting dynamic. And how did he always maintain another job?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, he did.
So yeah, I'm sure it was a drastic shift then, because that's the word that you use, responsibility, which I think is so cool, because that's a big responsibility that he's taking, and not a whole lot of time if he's already got another full-time job in order to accomplish it. So you go from having regular family table dinners, regular family outings, and family quality time to we're at church all the time,
Yeah.
and you're not enjoying it.
Yeah.
Was that a shared experience with your siblings? Like, were they not enjoying it as much as you were, or were you guys kind of homogenous in your expression toward what was happening?
I mean, some of it we've processed now that we're older, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we were experiencing it differently. So, um, my youngest brother was really young, so I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if he r- really was taking, like, if he was really experiencing like the such a big difference as
Mm-hmm.
my middle brother. My middle brother enjoyed it because he was always a part of like the creating. So he was like having fun in like the classes, or
Mm-hmm.
he's also really a people person. So
Okay.
he enjoyed being around a lot of people,
Yeah.
being the center of
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
He
think it
enjoyed
was
that.
also the personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Like I took it on as now I have more responsibilities, and his personality took it on as I have more opportunities to do things
Mm.
differently.
Yeah.
And my younger brother, I think he was so much younger
Mm-hmm.
that he was just kind of taking it all in. Yeah,
Gotcha. Are you an introvert?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your middle brother's an extrovert?
Hmm.
Okay. And then the youngest,
Yeah.
introvert, extrovert,
Introvert.
introvert.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, interesting. So you all are always at church.
Hmm.
You're not enjoying it. You said yes.
Right.
So talk to me about the kinds of conversations that you are or are not having with your parents. Knowing that this was something that in its onset was something that you all had a conversation about, and with your younger siblings being a little probably too young to really give a conscious yes, you not necessarily being old enough to give a fully conscious yes,
Right.
but old enough to think that you're giving one.
Right.
Talk to me about the conversations that you are or are not having with your parents about your experience. Like, were you guys talking about this? Like, were you saying, "Hey, I don't like being at church this much. Why can't we?" Are those kinds of conversations happening in your home?
No, they're
Okay.
they're not. Yeah. So I think there was this like there's buy-in. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
had this conversation. We all said yes.
Mm-hmm.
There's buy-in. Now we are all on for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And so there wasn't that I remember, there was not like any specific conversations of how does this feel? Like how is this working for the family? It
Yeah.
was just like we're on for the ride and we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it felt that way. Um, I do I do remember that as I got older
Mm-hmm.
and as like I got more comfortable in the role, I found ways to enjoy it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think, but there was no conversations about it. It was
Mm-hmm.
just like, well, this is what it is, and
Yeah.
yeah.
So, why weren't there conversations about it? I mean, did you not feel comfortable to bring it up, or and did I mean? Tell me about what's happening for you
Yeah.
that might lend some explanation as to why these things that you're feeling and experiencing weren't necessarily being discussed.
Yeah. I would say culturally that
Okay.
normally doesn't happen. So even like having the conversation of like, hey, this is what's happening. Are we all on board? That's already counterculture to the
Mm,
way that we did family,
mm,
um and so culturally that's like kids don't really have an opinion in that
mm,
way. And so we just kind of we were told this is what's next, and
yeah,
then we were supposed to be obedient and
yeah,
go with the flow,
yeah,
right? So I think part of it was a big like a cultural part of it, but also I think that my parents were like trying to figure out how to do this well,
yeah.
and so for my mom went from being a stay-at-home mom, and
Mm,
she's the epitome of like someone who mothers and
mm,
loves to mother well.
yeah.
And so now she felt like her responsibility, and from what I have seen of her as a pastor until now,
Mm.
she went from being a mom to three kids to a whole congregation. Like she
Yeah.
just wanted to care for everyone so
Yeah.
well, right?
Hmm.
And so they're trying to figure out their roles, and I don't think they really cared to know what our opinion
Yeah.
was
Okay.
in the process.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I got you. And culturally, it would have been. Would you say it would have been inappropriate or even disrespectful to bring it up?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Um, I do remember when I was more like in my teens, like 15 to 18, there was this like very rebellious phase where I
Mm.
was like, I hate this. And I would like scream it and
Hmm.
slam doors and
Yeah.
all the things. But that was just me being rebellious, right?
Hmm.
And so most of the time it was me being respectful, right?
Hmm.
I knew that to be respectful to my parents was not to go against what the tone they've said, the things
Yeah.
that they've decided. And
Hmm.
so other than like my rebellious phase, right?
Hmm.
That didn't really like my opinion didn't really matter.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, so let's sit in that though. Let's
Yeah.
sit in the rebellious phase because
Yeah.
you're saying other than the rebellious phase, your opinion didn't really matter. But did it seem at least to you that anything was awakened in your parents' understanding of how you were relating to your experience during that rebellious phase? Like, did any of your rebellion
Yeah.
wake them up to the reality of your experience?
Not that they showed me,
Okay.
right? I think that there may have been conversations behind closed doors.
Hmm.
Um, I was just being rebellious.
Hmm.
And I was grounded for being rebellious, or
Hmm.
I was not allowed to go hang out with my friends.
Hmm.
But it didn't spark conversations
Hmm.
of like, hey, where is this coming from? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Gotcha. So what was Catwoman doing during this rebellious phase? Like how were we lashing out and rebelling against the experience of the PK? Because this is a consistent trope, right? Of
Right.
PKs, they run off and they do their own thing to rebel against their parents. So what did your rebellious phase look like in practice, right? Like what did you do to try and sound the alarm that this is not working for me? Like what was
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah. I spent more time with like people who maybe my parents wouldn't have been okay with,
Hmm.
right? So I am a highly like my values are super important.
Hmm.
So even though I was rebelling against my parents, not
Hmm.
against my values.
Hmm.
And so I would do things that I knew were going to bother them.
Hmm.
So, things like I'm going to, they said I was allowed to go out until this time.
Hmm.
Well, I would be later on
Hmm.
purpose, those types of things.
Okay.
But it was like, like I know that it's not very rebellious. It was
Hmm.
just my way of like I'm a rule
I'm gonna
follower.
stick it to them.
Yeah. So I'm a rule follower. I
Yeah.
didn't agree with their rules, so
Hmm.
I went against their rules.
Right.
Was the way that I rebelled,
I
right? Or
got you. Yeah.
they said specifically we don't want you to hang out with these people or this
Hmm.
person, and that's who I would spend my time with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And was that the source of a lot of stress in the home, like with conversations like we told you? Or, I mean, or were you doing it to just have your sense of own freedom and identity? And they didn't even really know about it.
Um, there was a little bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah. So some of the things I was like, I just need to be smiteful, and
Hmm.
yeah, and I just need to do this for myself,
Yeah.
and
A
you
little,
know,
little petty.
yeah,
Like, hey,
yeah, exactly, yeah,
you said 10 o'clock. I'm coming at 10:15.
right,
Like,
right, right. It wasn't even that big of a deal,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
but some of it was also like I there was a lot that I felt unheard about,
Mm,
and so I would just like have like fits and like scream things at
yeah.
my parents
Yeah.
about like yeah, anything. It could be about school, about
Hmm.
church, about like something going on in the home.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that. Yeah.
Did the amplified volume ever work?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. It was just my way of getting it out.
Yeah. It's
Right.
like, I
Yeah.
need to be heard. You're not listening.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk a little bit because I have some other interesting questions that because the whole secretary conversation is one that I want to circle back around to.
Yeah.
But just real briefly, preteen, dad comes home and says, "Hey, I have an opportunity here, and I want to make sure we're all on board." Right. And then we jump to around 15. Hey, this has not worked over the last 5 to 6 years.
Hmm.
I want to like I want to be heard. I want to have my own experience, and this thing that you guys are doing is not really something that I'm enjoying. Okay, and then you said that lasted for about 15 to 18.
Yeah.
At 18, like you're gone, you're
Hmm.
grown,
Hmm.
right? So like, what happened at 18? Um, did you just leave home and just forge your own kind of path? Like, what happened then?
Yeah. So, funny enough, my way of running away
Okay.
was to go to a Christian university.
This is the most tame
Yeah, rebellious.
rebellion I
Yeah.
have ever heard.
Uh,
Catwoman's like, I'm gonna really get away from here. I'm going to a Christian school.
yeah, exactly. Well, this was the only place my parents would pay for and
Mm,
allow me to dorm. And
okay,
so I was not that rebellious. I
gotcha.
was
Yeah,
still
yeah, yeah,
like, you know,
yeah.
I need their financial support.
Right.
Um, And so this was, you know, this is where they were like, well, you can dorm there because there's still the security of there's
Hmm.
all these rules.
Yeah, these rules and covenants you have to
Right,
sign. All stuff. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. And so I was a very sheltered child. And
Hmm.
so that was my way of running away.
Yeah.
Um, but there was like that did allow for a space for me to find my own voice,
Hmm.
and it grew my worldview
Hmm.
because I was I mean, as I said, I was very sheltered. My
Right.
parents created this bubble of like even like in them being pastors, the way that they felt like they had some control of like how we behaved and things we did. We were never allowed to hang out with our school friends outside of school.
Mm.
We only are church friends, so we can hang out with our church friends. We can go to sleepovers with our church friends because they knew their parents.
Hmm.
But and so therefore my world was very sheltered, and I
Yeah.
it was very much a bubble.
Hmm.
And so although it was really not a huge rebellion,
Yeah.
personally, it really opened my worldview.
Mm.
I I went on my very first missions trip outside of the country.
Mm.
I studied abroad, and so it was really my way of experiencing the world
Yeah.
um, in a whole different way.
What did you not know as a sheltered PK that you wish you knew before you got out into the real world?
Ooh, I'm not sure if it's like one thing.
Okay.
I think that there's so many things that I never had a conversation with my parents about.
Oh, I
Yeah.
love these types of conversations, by the way. All right, so we have to stick here for a second, and then I want to go back to the secretary.
Yeah.
Talk to me about some of those things that you never had a conversation with your parents about.
Yeah. Um, so really simple, just even like relationships,
Mm-hmm.
like not just like
That's a big one.
not just like a significant other kind of relationship,
Yeah.
just like friends. Like I mean, I'm an introvert,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was never even very good at making friends.
Yeah.
And so now I'm in a school where I don't know anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in the quote unquote real world and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to make friends.
Yeah.
And no one has ever had this conversation with me.
Mm-hmm.
I was just supposed to be friends with the church people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
it. And so like knowing how to like approach someone and make friends.
Mm-hmm.
I never had a conversation, but I also never had a conversation with my parents about um like having a boyfriend, going on dates,
Mm-hmm.
those types of things,
Yeah.
because it was just not allowed. It was just prohibited,
Exactly.
and so that's it. There's no
Yep.
conversation needed other than it's not allowed.
Yep.
And I was a girl in a Latino household,
Mm-hmm.
so I wasn't allowed to date until I was 30.
Mm.
And so all of
It's
these
like
things,
you
right?
cannot
Yeah.
date until you're married.
Right, right. So there's like simple things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But then also like conflict because
Mm-hmm.
we never really had conversations about conflict. So
Mm-hmm.
I had conflict with my roommates and I didn't even know how to
Didn't know how
address
to.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, a lot of conversations on how to do things
Mm-hmm.
that adults have to do that
Yeah.
there was not like there was never a conversation, but also maybe not modeled healthy
Yeah,
either. Yeah.
absolutely. So this is I don't know why I didn't ask this earlier, but the church context wherein you grew up and that your father pastored, was it connected to any particular denomination?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, what denomination?
Assemblies of God.
Oh,
Yeah.
ALG. Okay, now
Yeah.
it's okay. So got you. So some of my charismatic brothers and sisters, um, a lot of those kinds of conversations, because roped into some of the dogmatic connection to the theology, it was just prohibited, right? So because it was prohibited, it was like we don't even discuss it,
Right.
right?
Right.
So that's why I love these kinds of conversations, because I know there are so many things that like my parents, like we didn't even have conversations about, even to this day, like never had conversations about. So conflict resolution, relationships in general, romantic relationships, all these are things that you're going to have to contend with in the real world, and you've not even had a conversation with your parents about them.
Right.
Did you ever ask them why they never talked to you about that? Like, is that a conversation you ever had?
No.
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 Okay. I I would be interested to hear some of their explanations, like why. It's like, well, you figure it out, or maybe, you know what I mean? It's like, why didn't you think to have that conversation, knowing that it is an inevitability of life,
Right.
and especially one that at some point, whether you want them to date at a young age or not,
Hmm.
um, you're not going to say of your daughter that you don't want her to have relationships and be married and be happy. So wouldn't you want to have, you know what I mean? So all of these are part of the lived experience. And I'm curious, there's so many studies that haven't been done around PKs, but there are some that have, and I've not seen this come up in any of the ones that I've read, but I'd be interested to see a comparative study on the conversations between Christian parents and their households and pastors and their households.
Hmm.
What conversations are they having compared to
Hmm.
the ones that our parents are teaching
Hmm.
their parents to have conversations with them about, right? So it's like you're mentoring and coaching them on how to do parenthood and parenting while we're having a completely different lived experience in our homes. So you mentioned one of the things that your parents emphasized was that you could not hang out with friends from school,
Hmm.
outside of school,
Right.
only church friends.
Right.
Did you have parameters around your church friends? Meaning, Did your parents ever talk to you about how much you could and could not share and open to those friends, because they are also friends that your parents are pastoring?
Hmm. I think it was implied. There was
Oh,
never a
okay.
conversation.
Okay.
So there was a lot of implied things.
Mm,
And I think that this is very cultural.
mm,
Like, there's conversations you just don't have.
mm,
But the way that we relate to people, or even like if I would bring up, we had a conversation about this or this came up, the reaction would
mm.
imply to me that it was wrong and that I shouldn't have a conversation about that again. Yeah.
Got you. So, okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember what any of those things might have been?
Um, Usually it was like what happened at home behind closed doors,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like we didn't talk about our parents' relationship.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't talk about, if um like like things that were like what were considered family matters,
Yeah.
right? Things that are as siblings we may have been arguing about or not doing good at school.
Mm-hmm.
Because my rebellion was very different than my siblings, and
Mm-hmm.
so their rebellion was we don't have to go to school or we don't have to do well in school if we're
Mm-hmm.
there. And so that was kind of one of those topics we didn't talk about. We
Mm-hmm.
didn't talk we the things that were happening that were family matters. We
Mm-hmm.
just left them as family matters.
Got you.
Yeah.
Um, did you feel like you were able to form deep friendships at school or church?
No, no. And so that was part of like growing up, like
Yeah.
learning how to do that. Um, because in school, I didn't really know my friends. Like
Mm-hmm.
we went to class together, we hung out on lunch,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't spend like quality time with them. And then my church friends, there was this level of like, there's only so much I can share.
Yeah.
Also, I didn't like my school friends. I chose my school friends,
Mm.
right? And so we had things in common, in the sense of like liking and disliking. My church friends, that was it. Like
That
it
was
was
it.
like the
Yeah.
people who
They're
went
there.
to exactly, they attended church,
Yeah.
and so
They're there whether you have anything in common with them or
yeah,
not.
exactly. So I didn't necessarily have a lot in common. And so one of the things that, now as an adult, I think is funny is that my school friends actually were like, because they had a lot of similarities in like the things that I liked in school that I like to do, like in school, like what I like to read and
Mm-hmm.
like, my personal likings. They were actually like better friends than my friends at church.
Yeah.
My friends at church were very rebellious, and
Mm.
so they actually like constantly did things that I was like, oh no,
Mm.
like my values are telling me I should not be doing that.
Yeah.
But hey, these are the people I'm allowed to hang out with.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah, there was a
Mm.
lot of conflict internally
Yeah.
of like, but also like there was this like, well, they're not allowed to tell their parents what they're doing in their free time either, so
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell my parents either.
Yeah.
So we all kind of like had to cover each other's backs.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was messy.
Yeah, it necessarily has to be, because
Yeah.
it seems like, because you mentioned this earlier on in the conversation, that you place a high premium on values, right? And even at a young age, you place a high premium on values. But it seemed like the ones, or the people rather, that you were allowed to hang out with were actually antithetical to some of these values. But these are the ones that your parents are saying, hey, not them.
Right.
So I can only imagine, in the mind and heart of a young adolescent woman growing up in your cultural context, what kind of tension that is,
Right.
because you're trying to obey your parents and but at the same time, there's this internal struggle that they aren't even open to hearing, and you aren't even open to sharing with them
Right.
because it would be this whole thing.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I wonder if any of that during that period of your life was forming or shaping how you related to the church or to God at all. Like, what was happening in that area of your life and understanding?
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm sure it did. And I've processed it with a therapist and all the things now as an adult. But I mean, in that season, I I had to be able to compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
So I was a responsible pastor's kid that didn't like the way my life changed, but I had to be all on board.
Yeah.
And so I did all the things. Like I taught Sunday school. I led children's church. I all the things. I was a part of youth ministry and like the lead team.
Yeah.
I did all the things. So on the externally, it seemed like I was having fun and I was doing all the things.
Yep.
Internally, I was like, I hate this. Like, like, this is not what I want to be doing. And so I was a book nerd. I wanted to be doing, like, I wanted to be involved in school things, but I couldn't because I had to be home a certain time to go to church. And so I think it really formed this sense of like, I have to keep who I really am inside, and then I have to perform on the outside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The preacher in me wants to like,
Yeah.
because I feel like that's such a strong message. Because a lot of us PK are not fall into that performance kind of thing where it's like the real me is not good enough for the church. The real me is not good enough for God. The real me is not good enough for my parents. So I have to perform this version of myself that can be accepted by, say, parents, God, the church. And you said you've processed this with a therapist.
Yeah.
So in your processing, what have you learned about how that formed you that you have unlearned or even are unlearning?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I am unlearning to be a people pleaser.
Okay.
And so I think a lot of the performance was based on what I thought people expected of me, right? What my parents expected of me, but also the church as a whole, right? And so learning how to do things for myself, like this is who I am, and regardless of what people are going to say and think or expect of me, I'm going to show up as my full self.
Yeah.
That has been something that I've like constantly to this day like have to unlearn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a couple of things here that you just brought to my mind. When you say you were unlearning people pleasing, right? And all the areas where you might have been people pleasing. What does like because I'm sure somebody's listening to this and they're like saying, okay, cool, that might be me too. But like, what did you do? You know what I mean? To like put that into practice where you're saying, hey, I have to take ownership of who I actually am and not who other people want me to be. How did you do that?
Yeah. One, I had to like go through the process of learning who I am.
Okay.
Yeah, because I just as easy as like taking assessments to like really know, like, hey, these are my preferences.
Yeah.
This is not based on what other people have imposed on me.
Mm-hmm.
This is who I am,
Yeah.
right? So one, like having those like conversations with people that I trust,
Yeah.
but also just have self-analyzing myself and saying, why do I do this? Is
Yeah.
it because someone expects me to do it or because
Mm-hmm.
I love doing this?
Yeah.
And so one, understanding that, like
Mm-hmm.
having introspective conversations with myself
Mm-hmm.
and knowing me.
Mm-hmm.
And then two, like um now that I know, like, hey, this is what I like, this
Mm-hmm.
is who I am, this is how I prefer to show up,
Mm-hmm.
being very intentional about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So just something that like I think is really like a simple perspective change
Yeah.
is that like I belong in this at this table
Mm-hmm.
because of who I am, not because of who you think I am
Yeah.
or your expectations of a PK,
Yeah.
right? And so a lot of the times I would show up and say, "Oh, I was invited because of who they think I should be, and
Right.
so this is how I should act."
Yeah.
And now it's like I'm showing up as who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm having this conversation and answering the questions
Mm-hmm.
based on who I am, not on who you
Think.
think
Yeah.
I am
Yeah. Or
and
should be.
or should be. And so
Yeah.
a lot of times I have to give myself pep talks.
Yeah. 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 It's like,
like
hey.
I'm coming in and this is who I am and I'm not performing.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. That's our whole platform, right? No performance, just purpose, right? So it's like we want you to be authentically who you are, who God's created you to be, and spend your life giving to the world all the gift that God placed on the inside of you to give to the rest of the world, right? So that's who we are, and what you're sharing is exactly what we want people to kind of experience. But here's the challenge, though.
Mm-hmm.
You know this. The moment that Catwoman decides that she's going to be who she wants to, who she's been created to be, and she presents that back to the community that had particular expectations of her, it will not go well. It is not going to be
Right.
sunshine and rainbows. They will
Right.
not automatically accept who Catwoman actually is.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to me about that transition for you, representing yourself back to the same community that once had certain expectations of you, in a way that's more authentic to yourself. Like, how did that happen? Did it happen at all? Because this whole process of discovery, it happened as an adult, correct?
Right.
So did you really re-enter into that environment at all, or no?
Unfortunately, I did.
You
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Okay.
So once I was done with college,
Mm-hmm.
my first job was really close to home.
Okay.
So I moved back home.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm an adult. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I've done all this work. I've
Mm-hmm.
started going to therapy. I have mentors.
Mm-hmm.
My worldview is a lot larger.
Yeah.
I have different types of friends, and I'm quote unquote an adult. I have a real job,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm back home,
Yeah.
and so the expectation that's not really said but is expected is that I attend my parents' church, you
Right.
know, and so I did.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the comments that I would get was,
Mm-hmm.
"Wow, school really changed you,"
Mm.
or "Wow, now you just speak your mind,"
Yeah.
but it was never positive. It was always like, "Oh, like you're rude
Yeah.
now."
Yeah. Exactly.
And then I also, so I was very passionate about the work that I did in the missions field.
Mm-hmm.
I was very passionate about ministry outside of church.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a lot of people who would say, like, we're praying, they would say verbally out loud that they were praying against the things that God was putting in my heart. Because they were just like, well, they're going to keep you away from here.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
Or away from the things your parents have been called to.
yeah.
And so there it was,
Isn't it amazing
yeah,
that so many people, when you're a PK, so many people will not see purpose in you, but will see you as an accessory to the purpose of your parents.
right,
It's like it's fun. It fascinates me. It's like you do not see me,
hmm,
you see them,
right,
and because you see them,
right,
you associate who I am and was created to be to the rest of the world with what they were created to be to
hmm,
you.
hmm,
And that's sometimes it's the same, but a lot of times it's not.
right,
And so they're looking at you saying, "Well, you've changed.
right,
You are not the same
right,
Catwoman that we knew once before."
right,
How did you manage that? Because you didn't say you went back. You said unfortunately
right,
you went
right,
back. So
right.
talk to me about why going back into that environment was unfortunate.
Um, because so again, therapy has helped me understand like the codependency that was created
Mm,
in the church environment.
yeah.
And so, like you said, there was this expectation that what I was called to had to be attached to the success of my dad's ministry.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was very much that was a very unhealthy space for me.
Yeah.
And so that's I didn't realize it until, years later when
Mm,
I really processed this. And I remember feeling like, God, why do you keep on bringing me back to this space? Like,
mm-hmm.
I just felt like, are you teaching me something? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Am I the one that's being disobedient? Like, what is it that I need to learn? Because I came back, right? And then I moved out of state for grad school.
Okay.
And then I came back again. And
Mm-hmm.
it really felt like all the doors, like my hope was to stay out of state
Yeah.
because there I learned how to be myself outside of my whole family.
Yeah.
And so, and so I, I was thriving and healthy and in my own skin.
Mm-hmm.
And when I finished grad school, the only job opportunities that were solid were here
Mm.
in my hometown.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, God, why are you bringing me back? Like,
Yeah.
what am I doing wrong?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it felt unfortunate
Mm-hmm.
because it felt like I didn't understand why I kept on coming back to a space that felt so unhealthy for
Mm.
me as a person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why?
Yeah. Well, honestly, as now that I am able to be in the same space,
Mm-hmm.
but not in the same kind of relationship,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, I needed to learn how to be healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to learn how to have difficult conversations.
Yeah.
I had to learn, like, I, I this is when I went to therapy. So
Okay.
after grad school, I moved back and I realized that I was only thriving because I learned how to be myself and
Mm-hmm.
I learned how to be that unapologetically,
Yeah.
right? And so I had to process why couldn't I do this in the space
Yeah.
that I grew up in the space where people, quote unquote, really knew me.
Yeah.
And it was because I was never allowed to have hard conversations
Mm-hmm.
and really be myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had really difficult conversations. By this time, I'm married, so
Mm-hmm.
it's affecting my marriage as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the expectations that were responsibilities and expectations that were put on me
Yep.
were also being expected of me and my husband,
Yeah.
right? And so we, at one point, we were running youth group, we were running children's church.
Mm.
We were doing all the events,
Yep.
so there was like our life was being consumed by me not being able to say no
Mm-hmm.
and not have hard conversations. And
Yeah.
so um, after like going to therapy, learning more about, okay, how can I be healthy? I know how to be healthy outside of
Yeah.
this bubble and all of this, right? How can I be healthy and set boundaries?
Yeah.
So learning how to set boundaries, have hard conversations.
Yeah.
It was not well received. We had a lot of like hard, messy conversations with my parents that I
Mm-hmm.
never had before.
Yeah.
Um, would I say that they agree with it now? No, they just know that where I stand.
Yeah.
That's it. So I don't know if it's changed their mind.
Mm-hmm.
They just know where I stand. Uh, and so now I have set very specific boundaries.
Yeah.
We have had hard conversations. Um, my husband and I attended a different church,
Okay.
and we are able to come and hang out at their church every once in a while
Mm-hmm.
and do these things. And so there had to be like some deep healing.
Yeah.
I think if I would have stayed in another state, I would just not have a relationship with my parents.
Mm.
Yeah. And now I can have after, I mean, it's taken, there was a lot of like heartbreak on their end
Yeah.
because they were hearing things that they didn't want to hear.
Mm.
Um, there was maybe, a year of like, we don't really want to invite you to dinners,
Mm-hmm.
family events.
Yeah.
But now we have like a much better relationship in the sense of they know where I stand, they
Mm-hmm.
know who I am. I don't have to show up as like what they expect. I show up as myself.
Yep.
Do they agree? Not 100%, but that's okay with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so good. And you said you went to therapy after grad school
Hmm.
because it's everything that you just said
Hmm.
only comes, especially with the clarity with which you said it, it only comes through that deep work, right?
Right.
What motivated that for you?
Um, Honestly, my marriage was about to explode.
Mm.
Like we were gonna be done. So it felt like we had only been married for such a short time,
Mm-hmm.
and we were like ready to call it quits.
Mm-hmm.
And so so it was kind of like my last like this is not what I signed up for.
Yeah.
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 And so I need to like reclaim,
Mm-hmm.
like, I need to reclaim who I am,
Mm-hmm.
and I need to figure out how.
Yeah.
So it actually started with marriage counseling,
Okay.
and then that turned into like we both need separate
Mm-hmm.
therapy, and it just kind of unraveled the whole can of
Yeah.
worms.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
All right, so this is good. So let's go back to the secretary because I want to do that before we wrap up. This highlights to me something that you all know, which is when your parents pastor, people don't just have expectations of them. They have expectations of you.
Mm-hmm.
And when they have expectations of you, not only do they want to see what they expect, but they also feel like it's their responsibility to be sure
Mm-hmm.
that you perform what they expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, if you could say anything to the members of your father's church, if you could say something right now that you couldn't say growing up, what would you want to tell them?
Ooh.
And the podcast is not made for children, so you can say whatever you want to say. If you wanted to say something to those church members that you could not say growing up, what would you want to tell them?
Oh, I don't think I've ever thought about this. Um, I think mainly as a kid,
Mm-hmm.
I, I think what comes to mind was like spend more time like paying attention to your own children.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Like you over
Like
here watching me.
yeah. Yeah. Like the microscope was always on me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm like, I hang out with your kids. Yeah. And the same
Yeah,
standard is not on them.
yeah.
Um,
Isn't that's phenomenal?
yeah.
So, all right. So, excuse me for cutting her off, y'all, but y'all know we have to hit this real quick. It's so phenomenal. Adults
Hmm.
will put a standard on a pastor's kid
Yeah.
that, at least to us, as we're
Yeah.
watching their children because we're in relationship with them, they are not putting on
Yeah.
their own children.
Yeah.
It's like, are you expecting me, because my father's pastoring you, to pastor your children?
Right.
Is that what's happening here? Like, it seems so unfair. But they'll have an expectation of you that they don't even put on their own children.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. That just
No,
gets me.
that's fine. But I will say this. When I came back from college, I was very emboldened, because I was an adult and I
Mm-hmm.
knew all the things now, and
Yeah.
I had a different worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling off one of the deacons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was.
Please tell
Yeah,
us this
yeah.
story.
So that's what came to mind right now that you said what I would say to the
Mm-hmm.
congregation, because he was using a Bible verse, and right now I can't think of it, but he was
So
using
the
the
deacon.
deacon was
Okay.
using a Bible verse to say like, if I'm wrong, may God condemn me.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and my response was like, well, you are wrong. And I wouldn't say that for myself, like, and so I was so upset because
Mm-hmm.
he was using the word to manipulate a situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, he said something like along the lines of like, oh, that's what it is, if I'm being a stepping stone to
Mm-hmm.
someone. And I was like, you have been a stepping stone for me so many times my whole life.
Yeah.
And so those words coming out of your mouth make
Mm-hmm.
me so upset.
Yeah.
And he was like, he felt like, how dare you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what kind of person are you? What did they teach you outside of here?
Mm-hmm.
And he was so offended. He had a conversation with my parents
Mm-hmm.
and the rest of they had a meeting about me speaking back to him
Mm-hmm.
the way that I did. But I think in that season, there was definitely I need to fight back,
Mm-hmm.
because as a child, I was told all kinds of things and I
Yeah.
just bit my tongue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, this guy is quoting a scripture, but like, what was the context? Was it to not do a thing to cause somebody else to fall? Is that
Yeah.
what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, he's like, yo, um, was he talking to you to say like you couldn't be a stumbling block?
Yeah. So he was it was like one of those like internal like members only kind of meetings.
Ah, okay.
Um, and so he wasn't talking to me directly. He was talking to members of the church.
Okay.
So the church was very legalistic. So
Mm-hmm.
they had members only
Mm-hmm.
meetings, right,
Mm-hmm.
with deacons. And I just remember the meeting itself was like there was a they were like there was people disagreeing on things,
Yeah.
right? Just specifically on what I can't remember.
Okay.
So he felt like he was in the right,
Mm-hmm.
and he was using this verse
He was
to
using the verse to
yeah,
try to prove his point.
right,
And
right,
then you just, in front of everybody, put him
yeah,
on blast.
oh
Like,
yeah,
yo, you've been a stumbling block forever, bro. Like,
yeah,
that is amazing. And this is like right after you came back from college?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
I would have loved to have been in that room. To see
yeah.
that. That would have been phenomenal. Okay. So if you could say anything to the church members, you would tell them to watch their own kids instead of watching us.
Yeah.
Okay. This is great. One last thing before we kind of wrap things up. We do something called The Truth Is. And it's an opportunity for you to set the record straight. You talked about so many things like expectations that were put on you and things that have been said to you and, stuff that you had to carry on stuff, right? So this is an opportunity to kind of reach back and set the record straight. Okay. So the truth is where you get to say, hey, listen, people thought that I blank. The truth is blank. And as we all know, as PKs, there's so many things that people thought about us, but you get the opportunity to set the record straight about anything in the world, in Catwoman's life as a PK. What would you want to offer within this segment? The truth is.
Yeah. The truth is that I had a personality. So I think that never really showed. So I had opinions and a personality, and I just had to hide it.
Yeah.
Right. And so now I feel like I just need to show up step into spaces with that.
And what would you say people thought? Did people think that you just were like whatever, or like that you didn't have opinions?
Yeah. So because that was I would say partly cultural as well.
Okay.
I was a woman and a girl in a space that is machista, where men, they set the tone.
Yeah.
And I had to also live up to all these expectations. I had to be meek and I had to be, I had to keep my opinions to myself. I had to behave a certain way. And so my personality never showed. So I think that I always was just the shy, quiet girl who never said anything about anything and just did the things. Yeah. So I think that is important for me now because I'm like, well, actually, I have a lot of opinions and I'm very sarcastic and sassy. And that I never showed that because I had to be a certain person.
Yep. Now, I wasn't going to ask this question because I was just going to stick with the first one and then go to some of the closing questions. But what you just said about the truth is that you have a personality makes me want to ask this question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked you if you could say anything to the church members that you couldn't say then. Now I'm going to ask you a separate question. What would you say to your parents that you couldn't say growing up? Like if all the personality and boldness that came back from college resided in that 13-year-old, 15-year-old Catwoman, what would she say to her parents that you couldn't or didn't say growing up?
I want my opinion to be heard. Yeah. Because I think that it was not even an option. Yeah. So outside of the personality, I had an opinion and I had things that I was wrestling with and that I wanted to have conversations about, that it was just not an option. Yeah.
So I want my opinion to be heard.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have an opportunity now for your opinion to be heard. There's somebody who's listening to this, watching this, and they are identifying heavily with Catwoman. They're saying, yo, I'm either growing up in this, what did you call it? Machista?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'm growing up in this sort of environment and culture. Maybe I'm growing up in a kind of legalistic culture that really just has a certain way that it wants me to do life. Maybe I'm growing up in an environment where I feel like I need to be someone that I actually am not. They're identifying heavily with you right now. Okay. What would you say to the PK that's listening to Catwoman's story and they're saying, hey, that's me? What would you tell them?
Yeah. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Do the work sooner. Because I wish I would have done the work sooner because those having those hard conversations
Yeah.
only like makes relationships better,
Yeah.
right? And so um at one point I felt like I could never have these conversations with my parents as pastors because I felt like it was going to break our relationship that in a way that was not mendable
Yeah.
because my opinions were too harsh for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it did it break it to a certain degree?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it changed it.
Yeah.
And so I think that but God is healing that,
Yeah.
right? So I would say don't wait. Like have those hard conversations, do the internal work,
Mm-hmm.
show up as yourself,
Mm-hmm.
um, sooner than later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really good. And when you say do the work sooner, I love that you said that because, as you all know, if you've been listening for a while or if you've just started listening, that is exactly why PKs Anonymous is here. We want to help connect you with the counseling and coaching resources, counseling to help you deal with the past, coaching to help you get into your future, the thing that you've been wired for. Why are you even here on earth? Your identity. What is it even? How do we get there? So you need to do the work and we want to help you get that. So please reach out to us. You can see the link right there in the description of this video. And if you join our Discord community, there's so many PKs who are in there who can help connect you one to another, which is really why we want you in the community, but also to connect you with some phenomenal resources that we have here at PKA and maybe even beyond. So please do me two things. If you enjoyed Catwoman's story, I need you to comment right there in this video. Tell us what you enjoyed most about whatever she might have shared that really kind of hit you or maybe made you laugh or really you identified with. Put it right there, and then also jump into the Discord community. Go you can see the link right here in the description of the video. Jump in the Discord community, connect with some other PKs, and let them know about this episode. Make sure that they're caught up on all things that are happening in PKs Anonymous. Now listen, if you're listening to PKs Anonymous, you're watching this video, I want you to remember before we come back for another amazing episode, you're never alone, or you're not alone, and you never were. Okay? We'll see you once again for another great episode of PKs Anonymous. Take care.